Well, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to talk about basically converting your revenue targets into cash and how we go about that. And uh, just a little bit to start, we're going to do some polls in today's webinar as well. So I'm going to try a little bit of the technology on you. If the poll doesn't seem to disappear, which happened before, then you might just type something quickly into the question box and let me know what's going on. But we'll get to that when we do it. So we're going to do some polls. We're going to get some feedback from you. I'm going to work you through the workbook a little bit, and we're just going to start some stuff. We've had a great response to our webinars, and also a lot of inquiry about starting up a mastermind group, which is all about driving implementation in your business by I guess getting people together to focus on these activities, really work them hard through your business, and then also to have an accountability coach that cracks a whip on you and keeps you going. So keep your eye out for that. We're going to send out some details soon around probably look at a horticultural group and probably a specialist business group as well. So we'll be getting stuck into that. And if you subscribe to our newsletters, we'll keep you updated in that as well. So today's webinar is really about converting your revenue targets into cash. And for me, I guess when I start thinking about this, it's a really big challenge for lots of businesses. And the reason that it's a challenge, and it probably shouldn't be a challenge, but it is because we often don't set targets that make sense. So many people aren't actually setting any targets that make any sense at all. So we're setting targets that are built around, you know, whole dollars or something else, or an hourly budget or something, and it's really hard to break that down. So the big challenges in this whole area are setting targets that make sense, breaking them down to meaningful chunks, and then working out a plan for what you're going to do about them and how you're going to move on and get to them. So we're going to talk you through. I'm going to take you through a bit of a process that's around building an income matrix and some other elements. But first up, let's just do a little bit of a poll here. So if you would just have a look at that for me, and type in there, how often do you, I guess, set or monitor your revenue targets in your business? It says annually, 6 monthly, quarterly, monthly, or never. Lots of businesses I work with have been never. All right, just another few seconds. So if you can work out how to do it, just click on the one that works for you. Okay. All right, so I'll just close that poll there now, and you should have the results should pop up. So 67% of you are doing it monthly, which is excellent, probably better than I thought. 17% quarterly and 17% on a 6 monthly basis. That's probably much closer to the results. Sorry, I'm just working this out here. So just share the results with you there. As you can see, nobody's checking their budget annually. I think if we had a few more people, we'd get a little bit more of that. And there's a whole heap of people that never really look, never. Now, what I find is that lots of people, when I say, check their revenue and convert their revenue, they're talking about having a look at the bank statement or maybe a bit of a sales thing. All right, so now that should hide the results from you. So let's talk about the process. So the process that I use in doing this sort of thing with my clients is, first step is, it's quite a simple process. We'll build an income matrix. And an income matrix is a simple budget that looks at revenue or income in your business. And we're just going to break that down. The second step is about mechanisms for monitoring progress and planning out and taking actions. And that's what we call a sales pipeline. And I know some of you have a sales pipeline. Others of you, it'd be a bit of new territory for you. The last thing we then do is around marketing activity, because we need to generate leads for our business. So marketing is all about the process of generating leads, and we need to be consistent in doing that. And then lastly, we need to have some sales activity that helps us convert, I guess, leads or prospects and convert them into customers. So let's just sort of do that, because if you think about it, it's moving from that revenue plan through to cash at the end. And that's really what we're looking for here. So the first step in the process is about building an income matrix. And here's a simple income matrix for you. And for me, a simple income matrix is, I guess, a simple plan that breaks down our revenue or income targets into a couple of key things. It breaks it down by customer group and it breaks it down by product or service type. And we put an average fee value for some of those services or products. And I'll give you some other examples from other industries in a minute. And then we simply allocate how many of those product or packages are we going to sell to a particular customer group. So it's quite a simple budget. And the key to it for me is that it breaks down, pardon me, it breaks down our targets into manageable chunks, particularly when we start to look at where are we now and where we've got to go. And I'll show you that example in a minute. But just building this sort of, I guess, revenue target, there are 4 things that we need to do. And these are in your workbook, So we need to identify our customers. So we need to make sure that we have identified who our customer groups are. I'm not talking about individual customers here. I'm talking about having them as large chunks of customers, so typical customers. And then we need to identify our products, not by SKU, but by chunk again, large sort of products. For each of those products, we need to talk about what's the average value of one of those products. And then we can start to say, how many of those product groups am I going to sell to these things? So if you see the example here, for industry T, we've delivered 20 packages of service quality X, and they're at $5 each, $5,000 each, sorry. So that's $100,000 in fees we've generated. Now the figure in the bottom right-hand corner at 460,000 there, that is our revenue target. Okay, so that's our total revenue target. So what you do is you need to have understanding of what your vision is and where you want to take your business and what that target is for the coming year. And then here we are, we're going to break it down by customer and product to give us a nice overview of that. So the benefit is that you end up with, there are no sort of regular targets, sort of large dollar targets or hourly rates or hourly things to work through, which are really nebulous and hard to get your head around. So, if you're a professional service business and you're trying to say we're trying to sell 10,000 hours this year, then you go, I don't know how to do anything with that because it's just a big chunk of hours. So you've got to break that down into manageable chunks and products. So this one here is a produce business, for example, a horticultural business, and you can see here that we've broken up the model into premium products, composite products, and export pack home delivered, and a range of different customers types. We put average values per box or per case there, and then you multiply them out to give us a target of 1.1 million basically in the corner. Now, if we map out where are we now and what we expect to have coming in the door, and then add to that what our expectations are over and above that, you end up with what the gaps are. And say, for example, we might end up with some gaps here where we say, righto, we might end up with a gap of, say, 8,000 boxes of composite to get, 5,000 boxes for export, and 500 boxes to be home delivered. Well, that's much easier than saying we need to generate an extra, $250,000 in revenue and where we're going to get that from. Because now you can sit down and say, righto, let's have a discussion with our agents about selling that additional 3,000 boxes of composite to them. Let's go and talk to some export customers who like to take composite and see if we can't lift what they would normally buy from us, because maybe it's a product we don't normally have. So composite, for those you don't know, is a lower quality product. Let's have $5,000. Let's go and talk to one of our export partners about lifting, or find another export partner to take 5,000 boxes for export, and let's work out how we're going to build an extra 500 boxes for our home delivered product. Okay, and that could be another 50 or 60 customers to take a box a week. So it's something around that. So it's very simple. We break it down. It leaves us with some targets. I find that having these gaps is understanding the gaps and what we have to do and breaking into manageable chunks helps us to focus our activities. So once we've got our activities focused, then we can really start to say, righto, where have we got to go and what have we got to do? So an income matrix, really quite simple. Now we're going to give you some spreadsheets. So as part of the resources, as part of this webinar, we'll give you a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet has an income matrix in it, an example income matrix, and an example sales pipeline. And we're going to talk about sales pipelines in a minute. But setting up your income matrix, map out your plan, work out the gaps in tangible chunks that you can work out what to do, so that you understand the difference between now and where, and then basically work on averages and not absolutes. Okay, so the key elements of your income matrix are customer, client groups, product services, your average sales per unit, and then the number of units sold. Okay, so they're the things you need to be aiming for. Okay, so the next step in our process. Oh, sorry. Before I move on, any questions on the income matrix? If you've got a question, just start to plug them into the questions area. As I mentioned before we got started, if you have any questions, just start typing them into the box as we go, and I'll stop and we'll have a break at each after each sort of section, and we'll talk through some of these elements on this. But if there's no questions, I'll keep pushing on. All right, so the second step in our process is about the sales pipeline. So the sales pipeline is, I guess, it's a tool for monitoring and managing sales in your business. For me, it tracks the movements of prospective sales through the pipeline to a logical conclusion, and that can be either you win the job or you don't. And to be honest, it's the hallmark of all the high-performing businesses that I work with. I don't work with a high-performing business that doesn't have a really good sales pipeline that they manage and things that they do. So sales pipelines are really important. So another quick poll here. So do you have a sales pipeline that you monitor in your business? Okay, great response there. So I'll just close that off. I think everybody's voted. Share those results there. So you can see 30% of you saying yes, about half of you saying, well, sort of, and about 30% of you saying no. Pretty good normal distribution, and it's what I'd expect. But if there's one thing you take away from today's webinar, it should be that you need to put a sales pipeline in place. So let's talk about sales pipelines. Sorry, I'm just driving the technology. Here we go. So building a sales pipeline, a couple of steps, and I'll take you through them step by step. But first thing, you got to map out your sales process. So a big chunk process, we need to map that out. We need to build the pipeline at each stage of that process. We're going to add probabilities of potential sales to add some realism. And then we're going to monitor the pipeline and use it to drive activity, marketing and sales. So really there's those four simple steps. Let's go through each of them. First thing we need to do is map out a sales process. And I'm not talking about a really detailed sales process. This is I call the big rock sales process. So the big chunks that are in your sales process. And I've just put two examples here. So the top one is a typical professional services firm, say a consulting business, where you've got ideas. So ideas are often, say in my business, are clients that I'd like to work with that don't know I exist or haven't had a discussion with. So there might be a target or somebody that I've worked with or I know of, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'd like to work with them. And so I'll put them in the bright-eyed ideas thing. Scoping for me is when we're actively having a discussion with somebody and they've said to me, hey, yeah, we'd like to work with you, and we're talking through how that might work and what the process might be. Third step is we're at a proposal phase. So that's where we've agreed with what we're going to do, and I've summarized that agreement into a written document, and I've submitted that to them for final approval. And then the win stages for me is a project or a long-term client comes on board. So, and all the alternative is it's either a project that I win or it's a loss. So it goes into the pipeline in different phases. But that's the basic process that I work through. Now, if we had a different sort of business, say a horticultural business, and then some of the things we might be thinking of are, prospects. So prospects are people that we've either worked with in the past or would like to work with in the future. And we're having discussions with them about things. Negotiations are about when we're talking about a specific order and what the pricing might be and that sort of stuff. And then we normally put through a formal quote to them. Sometimes that's just in the form of a email confirmation or something, but off at that quote phase before they come back, accept our quote and place an order. So now your pipeline could be something different, completely different. And it could run just, from ideas to prospects to quote to order. I mean, it could be a completely different process. So what I'm going to get you to do is think very, very quickly about your pipeline. And so there's space in your workbook on page 3. I'd like you to map out the 3 or 4 key steps in your sales pipeline. Now, the easiest way to do this is start at the end and say, okay, what is my what does my pipeline look like? Yeah. So start at the end. What's the finish? Is it a project? Is it a product you sell? Is it a service? What is it? And then move back through. Now, if you've got an online business, your process could be very different. So it could be, you know, about lead generation and SEO and bringing people to your website, all sorts of other things. So work through your process. What are the steps in your sales pipeline? The big steps. Now, once you've got some steps, if you feel brave enough, we type them into the question area. So just type in the 4 steps. Yeah, and they should be fairly simple. They should be sort of one-word things. All right, your time starts now. So, Will, is that target, is that your first or your last stage? So, Will said one of the elements of his pipeline is target. At what level is that? Is that the end? Here we go. So we've got target, scope, proposal, retainer. Perfect. Okay, so that's very much around a consulting model. Yeah. Tim's got a different business to most of us, and Tim's process is development, consultation, proposal, project. Yep. So Nabil's got one: identify target, market, initial call, sales appointment, new client, on retainer. Yahoo. All right, excellent. So you can see that we can do lots of different things with the sales pipeline. It's important that you use that because we're going to have a simple one, only 3 or 4 steps, because we're going to use that to build, I guess, a pipeline for your business. As I said, I'll send you an example of one. But here's an example pipeline here. So this is step 2 and 3, really. So it's about building the pipeline and then adding the probabilities. Now, what I do in mine is map out the stages or the phases of my sales process. You can see them in the left-hand column, from prospects through to order. And then for each stage, then I go through and list the customers or clients. And I actually have another column in there for project, because I might have multiple clients and multiple projects with different projects. We'll put those in. I then put the revenue in, so the expected revenue. So obviously, the closer I am to closing the sale, the more accurate my revenue estimate is. So down the bottom of the pipeline, they're all just round numbers and broad figures and averages. But as I get closer to the top, where we've actually put in a quote or we've done something else, then we should be pretty accurate in what that's going to be. The third step is really important, and this is the thing that I think sets this sort of pipeline model apart from other just lists of things that I've seen, and that is because we put the probability of winning that job. So the ones at the top in the order area, once they've placed the order, they're obviously 100%. All right, so we put those in 100%. But the further we move down the sales pipeline or down our pipeline, the less reliable those probabilities are. So my rules of thumb are at that sort of quote or proposal phase. I never go above 80%, even if it's a long-term client and they've said, yeah, let's just roll over again and let's keep going. I still don't put it at 80% until we actually kick off. And when I'm at that sort of scoping or negotiation phase or whatever, for me the upper limit's about 20%. And we're at that sort of prospects or ideas level, I keep them pretty low, normally below 5%. Because what I don't want to do is skew the model by having really high probabilities a long way away. And I've seen too many sales teams make that mistake of being overconfident and over skewing the pipeline. So what you end up with then is you multiply the probability by your revenue, and you end up with the probability of that revenue. And then I add up those probabilities, and I do them by different stage, and they're cumulative at different stages there. So I add them up to see what the probability, what's really in my pipeline. Okay, so in this model here, we've got down the bottom there, we've got $540,500 in the pipeline. Now that's based on potential revenue of over $1 million. But in reality, not all that $1 million is going to come in. So if my target, and remember we had our income matrix of 1.1 million, if my target is 1.1 million, that's in red down the bottom there in the corner, then I've currently got 540,000 of that roughly in my pipeline. So I'm still $590,000 short. Yep. So we've got to sort of sort that out. So we've now gone from having an income matrix to a pipeline that's starting to make sense. And we can see the gap between what we're really doing and what our target is. So this is really important. Okay, so that's a sales pipeline. And as I mentioned, I'm going to send you an example of that. Now, for those of you that do have a pipeline, I'm going to ask you another little poll here. And what tool do you use to monitor that um, pipeline? Sorry, I went blank there for a second. So it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a CRM. There are some custom built programs and purpose designed pipeline programs out there. And I've seen plenty of people that just use good old fashioned pen and paper or a whiteboard. I know plenty of people who track their pipelines on a whiteboard. Where does it sit for you? All right, and you may not actually have have a I noticed the third of you didn't even have one, so that's okay. All right, just a couple more seconds and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so what we've got there is, and I'll just share the results with you. So you can see 50% of you using a spreadsheet, 33% with a CRM, 17% using pen and paper or whiteboard. So that's all, something similar to that. So that's all good. I find that very few of the CRMs give you the reporting where the probability, they allow you to put probabilities in, but the reporting is all on the revenue column, not the probability of revenue column. And for me, that's a little bit problematic. So, again, that's an area that I'd encourage you to have a look at, because the real power is the probabilities in this. Okay, so question here from Will. Not sure on the purpose of the probability. Yeah. So, well, the point of the probabilities is so that you don't overestimate you. So you win the work or you won't, but often you have a better feel for whether you're going to win it or not. And if you're down at the prospects phase where the client might not even know you exist or is a target for you, whatever, your probability is quite low of getting that work. So to put it in at potential, say here, if we look at prospects on this one, there's a potentially $150,000 worth of business there that is quite a long way off. In reality, we've only put 12,500 into the pipeline, so it doesn't skew it. Okay, so I really see that there's some challenges to not having the probabilities in there. Now you've got to be a bit diligent in how you manage the probabilities and that sort of stuff. But I also do some things where I'm on a competitive tender. So I've got one at the moment where I'm one of two people that they're looking at. So it'd be crazy of me to put that in at 100%. I mean, I think I'm going to win the job, but the client may have other ideas on that. All right, so that's answered that question, I hope, Will. Ian's put a column that ACT does have the probabilities. I notice some of them do, but often they don't have reporting functions. So you put the probabilities in, but it won't let you report against them. So just be aware of that. Okay, so that's a bit about pipelines. We can spend a lot of time talking about sales pipelines, but really important that you have one and you monitor it. And it's really important that you use it then to say, right, how can I move customer A, say, where we've got 10% probability to $100,000, how can I move them up the pipeline? What do I have to do with that client to get them to the point where we can either submit a quote or a proposal, whatever we need to do in our pipeline? So it's about saying, what do I do to advance? So the technical term in sales stuff is, what do I need to do to get an advance on this client and move them to the next phase in my sales process? Okay, I look at my pipeline weekly, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, certainly when anything changes, and I use it to prompt me to go back to clients and to follow up on opportunities and to do lots of things, because it's too easy to get caught up in being busy. All right, so that's our pipeline. Answered a couple of questions on that, so I am going to push on if that's all right, guys. Third step is about the consistent marketing activity. This is absolutely critical because marketing and sales are the things that the activities that we use to actually fill the pipeline. So let's talk about consistent marketing. Pardon me. So consistent marketing is really important because without it, I find we go from feast to famine. Okay, even in a seasonal business, it's really easy to not be consistent in your marketing, and then we spend uh, trying to play catch up all the time with people doing things. So I find that we have to be consistent in our marketing, and that especially means marketing when we're at our busiest. Yeah. So for me, that's really important. We're consistent in this. Down the bottom right-hand corner there, I talk about a 90-day contact program. Your 90-day contact program needs to be the basis that sits behind this whole behind your whole marketing program. And I'm going to send you, or in the resources, there'll be a thing on how to set up a 90-day contact program. It is the one thing you must do. A sales pipeline, and a 90-day contact program are the essential elements of driving great performance in your business. Now, when I talked about marketing with people or promotional activities, what I'm talking here is not your marketing strategy. We've already got that set up, but this is how we get out, and this is about marketing activities. So the three activities I get people to focus on are networking, broadcast activities, and one-on-one meetings or activities. Now, the proportion of effort you put into each of these will depend on will vary depending on your business. Some businesses you need to do a lot more networking than others, and other businesses you'll do a lot less. You may do even very little, but you need to do some. So when I'm talking about networking, I'm talking about going places to talk with potential customers and clients. I'm not talking about going along to the local institute of accountants or networking consultants or whatever it is you happen to be a part of and talking to other people in your industry. I'm talking about going to places where potential clients will hang out and networking with them. So that will be things like industry groups, trade shows, maybe your local chamber, industry conferences, those sorts of things where you can get out and network with people. Okay, so you need to understand networking. It could be BNI for your business, or there are other organisations that do similar things to BNI. I don't mind what it is, but you need to focus on some of those. Broadcast activities. Really important that we look at broadcast activities, and this is what lots of people do. We'll come back to broadcast activities in a minute. Following on you from networking, you often need to do some one-on-one work with people. So that's about follow-up from your networking. It's often about meetings, coffee, lunch, drinks, dinner, those sort of things, about inviting people to events, rugby, charity dinners, those sorts of things. Make sure that you do some of that follow-up and one-on-one meetings with people, because at some point you need to move from networking in a group situation to a one-on-one meeting with people where you can roll your sales process out. Okay, so one-on-one is about qualifying people and getting them to understand that there's a need for your product in their business and working with them on that. The third element I mentioned is broadcast, and this is where we put lots of activity, and lots of businesses actually do lots of stuff here. A couple of key things. Electronic newsletters are actually quite good. They're really good for branding your business in the marketplace. Even if people don't read your newsletters and that sort of stuff, they're a great marketing tool. Just because people pops into people's inboxes, um, they are a proactive thing, so you actually send it out to them. Whereas I find social media is very passive. It relies on people logging into their LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter account or whatever and watching that sort of stuff. And whereas your email newsletters, those sort of things pop out there. A couple of things you might want to think about is a general newsletter for your wide range of clients off to a mailing list, and client-specific newsletters. So you might have a group or an industry group that you want to work with. Come up with a specific newsletter, specifically a lot, really targeted towards those groups. Okay. Blog articles are really important, and they can form the basis of your newsletter. I'm finding blog articles match with a video. A companion video is a really good way to go. Lots of people are clicking through onto the videos rather than watching that. It could be podcasts. It could be anything else. Webinars, any of these sort of programs. They're all about marketing and building your profile as a thought leader in your industry and letting people know what it is you're on about. Okay, so consistent marketing is absolutely critical. And I was going to ask another poll, but I won't. we'll just keep working on through this sort of stuff. Now, as I mentioned, you've got to be consistent in your marketing. Okay, you need to be consistent in this. Even when you're at your busiest, you still need to be doing things. So that might mean you still have some broadcast activities going on, or you still find time to go to a networking meeting or something else. Okay, but um, don't let it slip when you're at your busiest. Otherwise, you jump into feast and famine. All right. So, any questions about marketing? I've got a question here from Trevor. Um, what about your own website? Yeah, sorry, Tricia. Website's good. Website is normally a place to store your blog articles and your videos and all that sort of stuff. If you look at my website, you'll see that we've got all our blog articles and videos and everything are all stored there, and we send people to there from our newsletters. So getting your own website there is really important. And I see a website currently is the price of entry into the market rather than something special you should be doing. You know, people need to have a website. You can build websites quite cheaply and effectively nowadays, and then you can use those. Should mention there are a whole range of other tools. And Tim's company. Tim, you just want to type in the name of a website where people can go to look at your product. Tim's got a great product, and it's basically a product that allows you to use an altered reality image as I guess like a QR code. Sorry, it's augmented reality. Sorry, Tim. So it's about using augmented reality where you take an image and that whole image becomes like a QR code with a great app that allows you to overlay a whole heap of information over the top of that image. It's very clever. If you go to bundyar.com.au, I'll type that into the chat area in just a second. Yeah, so Tim calls it a QR code on steroids. So now these sort of products can really help you to do I guess to get out and to talk to people as part of your broadcast activities. Okay, so broadcast activities really important. I'll just put this into the chat area here. If you want to go and have a look at it, can highly recommend it. Okay, so we've been through, I guess, our 4-step process here, and the last step in our process is really about sales activity. And for me, marketing is all about bringing prospects into your business and getting prospects to join you in your business and do something else. Whereas sales is about converting those prospects into customers. Yeah. So it's really about the process of closing people over. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I think we'll run some future webinars on sales. It's really important that you do spend time in sales. And I'm actually going to do a little simple poll here. I'm just going to ask you, have you done any formal sales training? Yep. And then I'm talking about a course that's a day or longer. The reason I ask this is because I find that sales is absolutely critical to us in our businesses. Many of our clients that we deal with have a long history in sales, and particularly if you're selling into large retailers and that sort of stuff, their guys are absolute specialists at this. And if you look at the results here, 50% of us have done some sales training, and 17% have read a couple of books, and a third of us have done nothing. That's pretty typical in my experience. And when you think about it, a large proportion of our businesses are around sales. So yeah, it's important that you actually, I'd encourage you to get out and do sales training. It's probably the thing you'll get probably the best return on investment on it in your business, and probably any training that you can do. So a couple of really important things with sales. A couple of important things with sales are, work to targets and your sales pipeline. So use your sales pipeline as a tool to drive your sales activity. Sorry, I'm going a bit over time here. Build your sales skills. Spin selling is one of the better sales programs around. Buy the spin selling book and read it if you want to, and just get your head around spin selling, but go and do some training on it. Do some training around negotiation. Don't forget, many of your clients negotiate for livings, and it's much easier if you have some good negotiation skills. Develop a sales plan. I'm not talking about a plan, I'm talking about a sales process. That simple process of build rapport with a client, understand their issues, provide some solutions, make sure you ask for the business. Too many people don't ask for the business, and then too many people fail to negotiate for objection. So if a client says, gee, that's expensive, you can't just sit there and go, yes. You've got to have an answer to that, and you've got to be able to negotiate your way out of that, around those issues, and talk about return on investment and those sort of things. Okay, the more you practice it, the better you will be. So practice, 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 and monitor your sales performance. So if you've developed a sales plan or a sales process, when you've been through a sales event, so you've sat down and had a meeting with a potential client, when you walk back outside and sit in your car, take a minute or two and sit down and just review your performance against your model and say, how did I go? How did I go at providing solutions and asking for the business? Did I really understand their issues? How did I go with overcoming their objections? Did I do a good job or not? And just work out what you've got to do for the next one. You'll find your sales performance will improve rapidly, extremely rapidly. All right, we might do some more on sales another day. So, any quick questions on sales before we close up? All right, it's a really important issue, and I suggest you do it. So, summary: my process of moving from, I guess, revenue plan to cash is all about building an income matrix. What's that simple set of targets that you can easily break down into actions? Rather than just having a big target like $1 million, let's break it down by product and by customer group so that we actually got some clear targets of what we need to do. Who do we need to go and sell, and what do we need to sell? So how many new clients do I need, and what products do they need to buy from us? Okay, that's really important. Monitor your sales pipeline. Set up and monitor your sales pipeline. If you don't take anything away from today, please set up and monitor a sales pipeline, and use it to drive your activity in your business. Build on your marketing activities. Be consistent and keep doing them regularly. And then work on your sales activity. Improve your sales skills, all those sorts of things, so that you become better and better and better at sales. All right, that's for today. I'm going to open up the microphones in a minute and see if anybody wants to ask any questions. Before I do, our next webinar is in 2 or 3 weeks out. It's on Thursday, May the 15th. It's 5:30 p.m. Sydney Melbourne time, and it's going to be on 5 tips for improving the productivity of your meetings. One of the biggest time wasters and the biggest loss of productivity for most businesses is around meeting productivity. And so I want to do a webinar based on that, and got some great tips and tools on that. The other thing is, any of you involved in horticulture or may have friends, family, relatives, colleagues, whatever involved in the horticulture industry, we applications are currently open for our 2014 program, where we provide comprehensive training, coaching support, all that sort of stuff, to help horticultural businesses drive their productivity and grow their businesses. It's a free program funded by HAL. There are some external costs in terms of travel and accommodation, but all the tuition, coaching support, everything else is provided through Horticulture Australia as part of the Horticulture the Next Generation program. So if you know people, they can go to the website there at the bottom of the screen, and or send me an email or whatever, and we'll help them out. All right, that's all we've got for today's webinar, and thank you for attending. If you like, I'm happy to. If you've want to ask a question and you've got a microphone, just type, yes, please, or something into the question area, and I'll open up the mic for you. Or if you don't have a mic, then you're most welcome to just type your question in, and we'll talk about that. Any questions? Please let me know. All right. Oh, here we go. Well, guys, thank you very much for today. I'll encourage you to have a great weekend, and look forward to catching up with you on one of our next webinars when we talk more about converting strategy into action. Have a great evening. Talk soon. Bye.